Module 1, Lesson 3, Dimensional Analysis. For this, you're going to have to know how to cross-cancel. And this is a topic for when you're multiplying fractions and you have to simplify them by cross-canceling. That means that you're going to, before you start multiplying, going to check how you can reduce the numerator of one fraction using the denominator of another. So here are some examples of how to do that. In these problems, you're going to cross-cancel before multiplying. 2 over 5 times 3 over 10. So if you were to multiply these, you can get like 3 times 2 is 6, over 5 times 10 is 50. And then start reducing, right? These are both even numbers. You can start dividing out numbers from those. But there's something that we can do before starting to multiply these out. So 2, numerator of one fraction, and 10, the denominator of the other fraction, they have the factor of 2 in common. They both can be divided by 2. So I'm going to divide out of those two. 2 divided by 2 is 1. That's the new numerator for that one. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that's a new denominator there. Okay. So instead of multiplying them first and then reducing them, I reduce those smaller numbers. I can multiply straight across. 1 times 3 is 3. And 5 times 5 is 25. These don't have any factors in common, so that is our final answer there. The next problem, number 2, is 8 over 11 times 5 over 12. Again, if we were just to multiply these out, that would give us a huge number. That would give us 40, but before doing that, we can start dividing these by their common factor, and they have factors 2 and 4 in common. Here we're going to choose the greatest common factor, which is 4. Right, 4 is greater than 2. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So now we can multiply straight across now that we've cross-canceled. 2 times 5 is 10. 11 times 3 is 33. They have no other factors in common between them, so that is the answer to that one. Okay. And the third one, negative 4 over 9 times 36 over 32. This is an example that first you would try to figure out what these have in common. For one example, what you can do is you can divide out the common factor between these two. So we have 4. Well, 32 is divisible by 4. 36 is also divisible by 4. So now 36 divided by 4 gets us 9. And over here, this gets us 8. Now we can start cross-canceling. 9 and 9 are both divisible by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. And then here again, 1. Negative 4 and 8 both be divided by 4. So negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Now we can multiply negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, so that is the intro to this lesson. We have to be able to cross-cancel and recognize when things can cancel out because they appear in the top, like in the numerator and in the denominator. And they can be across different fractions before you multiply. For the learning goals today, they're convert from one unit to another using the context of solving problems. And you'll know that you mastered this lesson when you can recognize appropriate ways to convert from one unit to another, solve problems by identifying and converting appropriate units using dimensional analysis. convert from one unit to another, determine what quantity and unit to express in the final solution, and derive units to represent real-world situations. Vocab, a unit fraction. It's a fraction where the top number is 1. So it's relating one of something to how many exist in that one of whatever you're talking about. Metric system, it's a decimal system of weights and measures based on the units of meter, liter, and gram. So meters for length, liters for volume, kilogram for mass, and seconds for time. US standard units. There are units of measurement commonly used in the US. So we measure liquids in fluid ounces, cups, pints, quarts, and gallons. Mass in ounces, pounds, and tons. Length in inches, feet, yards, and miles, and temperature in Fahrenheit, when other places use Celsius. A conversion factor, the most commonly used thing in this lesson. The definition, a factor used to convert a unit of measurement of a quantity to a different unit of measure without changing the relative amount. So 1 foot is the same as 12 inches. They are represented in different units, but they're the same quantity. Process that uses rates to convert measurements from one unit to another. This is dimensional analysis. So when you're going from one unit to the other, you are using dimensional analysis. Conversion factors, these slides just talk about how these quantities are the same, even though that they have different numbers attached to them because of the units being used to compare them. They're the same amounts. So 4 cups is the same as 2 pints, is the same as 1 quart, is the same as 1/4 of a gallon. Then you can do the same thing with a metric system, and it doesn't look as crazy, but 1 meter is the same as 10 decimeters, is the same as 100 centimeters, is the same as 1,000 millimeters. So the only difference there, they all have the word meter in them, but the prefix is different. And these fractions, this is all just to say that because these units are all the same, if you put them into a fraction, they all equal 1, right? 1 meter is the same as 100 centimeters. Since they're the same amount, you can put them over each other to equal 1. Same thing. So common metric system conversion factors, these are what you will need. These are the prefixes that help you differentiate between all these amounts. So 1 kilometer is the same as 1,000 meters. So it has that prefix of kilo, meaning 1,000. And these are the conversion factors that you're going to use. You're going to list them as fractions in order to convert from one unit to the other. And here are the ones that are most commonly used in the US. 1 mile is the same as 5,280 feet. 1 mile is the same as 1,760 yards, and so on. So sometimes it's hard to differentiate when you should use multiplication or division. So with dimensional analysis, that's an alternate method that you can use. It's also called dimensional analysis or the factor label method. Unit analysis, you set up a problem in a fraction form so that units cancel. So it's more of a visual way to see how you can convert between one thing and the other. Here are the steps. The slides are posted. So first example, convert 4.5 or 4.5, right? Half of something is 0.5 of it. Feet, we want that into how many inches? So going from feet to inches, take that 4.5. And whenever you want something listed as a fraction and there's a whole number with nothing under it, you can just put a 1 under. Anything divided by 1 is just itself, so you could put a 1 under any whole number. Okay, so here we're going to use the conversion factor here listed as a fraction. And that conversion factor is just going to relate these two, feet and inches. So you would just think to yourself, how many inches are in each foot? And that is 12 inches per foot. Now, the 4.5 that we got is measured in feet, and that is up here. So if we want to cross cancel feet so that we don't have our answer in feet, but instead in inches, we're going to put the measurement in feet across. So our conversion factor is going to have feet in the denominator and inches in the numerator. And whatever number goes with that unit is going to stick with it. So 12 inches over 1 foot. And now we can just multiply this out. So I don't know how to do this. Well, okay, 1 times 1, just 1. We know feet cancel here. So our unit of measurement in the denominator, there is none, right? There's no units here. Then feet cancel here. The only one left is inches. So that's what our numerator is going to be in, inches. And then there's a couple ways you could do this. So 12 times 4 is 48. And then you can do 0.5 of 12, half of 12 is 6. So if you add those together, you get 54. If that did not make sense, you could always like plug in 4.5 times 12 into the calculator and confirm that it is 54. So we have 54 inches as our answer. Okay. So second example, convert 95 inches into yards. And we want to round to the hundredths place. So I'm going from inches to yards. We're going to start with listing what we're converting in fraction form. So put a 1 under the whole number. We're going to multiply by that conversion factor as a fraction. First, we need that conversion factor. So inches to yards, how are they related? I'm going to go back to the slide that has all those. So here we see 1 yard is the same as 36 inches. We're going to list this in a way that cancels out the inches. So we want to cross cancel. That means inches goes across. Since it's in the numerator here, it's going to go in the denominator in our conversion factor. So yards is on top with the 1 and inches on bottom. That's 36. So now we can cancel out inches because it's in the top and the bottom. 95 times 1 is 95. And the only unit there is yards. In the denominator, 1 times 36 is 36. And since we do not have any units down there, we're just going to leave it like that. This is not done. We have to figure out how many yards are there. So we need to divide out that fraction. So this is just telling you to divide. When you do this, 95 divided by 36 is 2.638888888. And then, so this continues, and it's in yards. It tells us to round to the nearest hundredth. And go back to the question, round to the hundredths place. So hundredths is 2 from the decimal. So this is the tenths, this is the hundredths. The 3 is either going to be a 4 or stay a 3, depending on the number to the right. The number to the right is an 8. Since that is more than 5, we're going to round up. So we have around 2.64 yards. Okay. So now going to example 3, it says convert 50 miles per hour let's say 50 miles per hour to feet per second. Feet per second. And here we have, instead of 1 measurement to change, we have 2, right? We're changing miles to feet. And we're also changing hours to seconds. So here I'm going to start with listing the 50 miles per hour as a fraction. So miles, so 50 miles. Whenever we say per something, we always mean like per one of something, unless it's specified that there's more than one. So 1 hour, right? We travel 50 miles every 1 hour. And we're going to change this from miles to feet. So we need to figure out how many miles are in how many feet. No, every 1 mile has 5,280 feet in it. Since we want to cancel out miles, we have to put it across. So it's in the numerator here. It's going to be in the denominator here. 1 mile, 5,280 feet goes in the numerator. So when we do this, 5,280 times 50, we get 264,000. And since these units cancel out, in the numerator, we just have feet. Then in the denominator, we have 1 hour times 1 is just 1 hour. So we have 264,000 feet every 1 hour. And we have to now convert hours to seconds. There are 2 steps to doing this, unless you already know what the conversion is from hours to seconds. But I'm going to do it in 2 steps. First, I'm going to relate hours to minutes, and then I'll change minutes to seconds. Right. So we know that there are 60 minutes in each hour and 60 seconds in each minute. Right. So now I'm going to put them up here so that I know what to multiply by. So hour is down here, so I'm going to put hour up here. And my first conversion to minutes, there are 60 minutes per 1 hour. Then if I ultimately want this in seconds, I need to convert minutes to seconds, and this is going to cancel out minutes. I know there's 60 seconds in 1 minute. So here, denominator and numerator, those cancel. Denominator, numerator, they both cancel. So now I just have what's left here to multiply. 264,000 times 1 times 1, 264,000 in the numerator. The only units left in the numerator are feet. And then here, 1 times 60 times 60, that is 3,600, right? 6 times 6 is 36. And then there's 2 zeros at the end of it down here. The only units left down here are seconds. So now we have what we wanted, right? We wanted it to be in feet per second. We have feet over seconds. And now you just got to remember, a lot of people did not do this on the assignment. Feet per second is feet per 1 second. That means you have to finish dividing this. 264,000 divided by 3,600. Calculator says it is 73.333 blah blah feet per second. And since the question says, it doesn't say to round anything, so I could just list it out. 73.33, and then they just keep repeating feet per second. Remember to include the units. So it's really important here that we list out our answers with the units. If not, I don't know what you're talking about. Example 4. My student. Convert 7 feet per second into miles per hour. And we want to round to the hundredths place. So here, same thing, 7 feet per 1 second. And we want to convert this first from feet to miles. So we're going the opposite opposite way. And then again, seconds to hours. So same thing we just did, just the opposite. 7 feet over 1 second. We want to cancel out feet, and we want to relate them to miles. Feet have to go across so that they cross cancel. It's gone. And the last one we know, 5,280 feet are in each mile. Okay, if we do this, 7 times 1 is 7. The only unit left is mile. And then down here, 1 times 5,280 is 5,280. And the only unit down here is seconds. So that is what we're going to start with down here. 7 miles over 5,280 seconds. Multiplied by the conversion between seconds and hours. And since we just did that in the last one, we know that there are, we want to cancel out seconds, we put seconds up here. We know that there are 3,600 seconds per 1 hour, right? 60 seconds per minute times 60 minutes per hour. That's 60 times 60, 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. That way we don't have to do it in 2 different steps. 3,600 times 7 gives us 25,200. And since our seconds cancel out, that means this is in miles. And 5,280 times 1 is 5,280. There are no units here, so the only units in the denominator are hours. If we divide these numbers out, like the 25,200 and the 5,280, we're going to get 4.77272, blah, 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 miles per hour. And since it says round to the nearest hundredth, that is 2 decimal places on. So this 7 either goes up to an 8 or stays a 7. Since there's a 2 to the right of it, that means we round down. This is 4.77 miles per hour. Okay.